This lesson is on Section 2.5, Reasoning about Fractions. The word percent means out of 100. So each time we see a percent, for example, 35% would mean 35 out of 100. Reasoning about percentages can be made easier using some math drawings and knowing some common percentages expressed as fractions. For example, 25% is equivalent to 25 out of 100, or 1/4, and 50% is 50 out of 100, or 1/2. 75% is 75 out of 100, or 3/4. 10% is 10 out of 100, or 1/10. 20% is 20 out of 100, or 1/5. 5% is 5 out of 100, or 1/20. Each of these are shown below using math drawings. Probably the most useful one is this math drawing for 10%. This idea of breaking the whole into 10 equal parts, each part being 1/10 of the whole, or 10%. We can organize our thinking about basic percent problems as the percent being the portion out of the whole amount. So the whole amount is the 100%. Let's look at this example from our class activity. We can make some percent problems easy to solve mentally by working with benchmark percentages, using math drawings and percent tables to help us reason and record our thinking. To calculate 95% of 80,000, by calculating what 1/10 of 80,000 is, and then calculating half of that result to find 5%. Using the following math drawing and percent table to help us explain why our method makes sense and record our thinking. Is there more than one way to find 95%? As we look at this percent table, we'll notice it's broken down as 100% is 80,000. So when they told us they wanted us to calculate 95% of 80,000, that was telling us that the whole amount, 100%, was equivalent to 80,000. So if we label the 80,000 as being the whole amount, then 10% would be this one sliver of a rectangle, because there are 10 equal parts that make up the whole. So we want to calculate what 10% is, and it takes 10 of those to equal the whole. To go from 100% to 10%, we divide it by 10. So if we take 80,000 and divide by 10, we can find this value of 10% of 80,000, which would give us 8,000. That means this one rectangle right here is worth 8,000, and all 10 of them together are worth 80,000. To go from 10% to 5% here, that would be half. Half of 10%, or 10% divided by 2. This little rectangle here represents 5%. So the whole rectangle is 10% divided in 2 is 5%. So if we want to find out what 5% is, we can take the 8,000 represents 10%, divide it by 2 to get 4,000, and that is the 5%. Since the whole entire thing is 80,000, and we notice the little white piece that's missing to find 95%, we can subtract that 5% from 100%. 95% is equal to 100% minus 5%. So 95% of 80,000 will be the 100%, 80,000, minus the 5%, or 4,000, which would give us 76,000. Another way we could find that is by actually figuring out what 90% is and adding 5%. Percent tables allow us to reason about percentages. Gives us a general method in order to break down and calculate. For example, when using a percent table to calculate 6% of $40, the $40 would represent 100%. To calculate the 6%, we can first go through 1%, meaning we can go from 100% down to 1%. So that would be dividing by 100. So we would just take the 40 and divide by 100 and get 40 cents. So $40 divided by 100 would be 40 cents. Once we know 1%, to go to 6%, we would simply multiply by 6. So 6 times 40 cents, the 1%, would end up giving us $2.40. When representing this with our fractions, 6% means 6 out of 100, and the whole amount was $40. That would go across from the 100, and we're looking for the amount that goes with the 6%. Here are two more examples. When calculating 100% of an amount, if 3% of the amount is $15,000. So here we know the 3% is 15,000, and we are trying to figure out what the 100% is. So to go from 3% to 1%, we divide by 3. 15,000 divided by 3 is 5,000. Once we have the 1%, to go to 100%, we simply multiply by 100. So 100 times 5,000 would be 500,000. If you were setting up the fraction for this, 3% means 3 out of 100. And the 15,000 is the part that goes with the 3%. So it's going to go across from the 3. And then we are looking for the total amount there, or the 100%. On the next one, we're using a percent table to calculate what percent 3 is out of 8. So what percent is 3 out of 8? Well, that means we know that 100% goes with the 8. And for this one, it might be easier to take the number piece, get it to go to 1, and then calculate the percent. So one way to do that is go from 8 divide by 4 and get 2. That would give us what 25% is. Then it's easy to go to 1. So from 2 to 1, we just divide by 2, and half of 25% is 12.5%. So the real number we wanted was 3. To go from 1 to 3, we multiply by 3. So if we take 12.5%, multiply by 3, we get 37.5%. When representing this with fractions, we're trying to figure out what the percent is. So we're trying to figure out what the numerator is over the 100. If we know it is 3 out of 8. On the next example, let's look at class activity 2T, reasoning about percent tables. Question number 1 states Lenny has received 6 boxes of paper, which is 30% of the paper he ordered. How many boxes of paper did Lenny order? Make a math drawing and use a percent table to help you solve this problem. Explain your reasoning in each case. So we're going to draw a math drawing, which is going to be like a fraction strip or a strip diagram. And then we're also going to do a percent table. And in this case, we know what 30% is. It represents 6 boxes. And we want to know what 100% would be. In the math drawing, you'll notice I have a rectangle split into 10 equal parts. This means each part represents 10%. because the whole would be 100%. Since 30% represents 6 boxes, 10, 20, 30% I have shaded in purple, and this represents the 6 boxes. So 3 of those parts together equal those 6 boxes. If we were doing our percent table, we would say 30% is 6, and then we could calculate 10% and then go find 100%. And using the math drawing, I can see here that I have these 3 parts representing 6. So 6 divided by 3 means each part would be worth 2. 30% divided by 3 would give us the 10%, so 6 divided by 3 gives us 2 boxes. So both ways we see that 10%, or 1 part, is equal to 2 boxes. Next we want to try to figure out what the whole is, or 100%. So we think about to go from 10% to 100%, we would multiply by 10. So we're going to take our answer for 10% and multiply by 10. As you can see, we have 100% is equal to 10 times 2, or 20. So the 100%, or the total number of boxes, would be 20 boxes. Percent means out of 100. So 30% would be 30 out of 100. And we could write this with equivalent fractions. Since we know the 6 corresponds to 30%, we're looking for the whole amount, or what 100% corresponds to. One way to use equivalent fractions is we know to go from 30 to 6, we divide by 5, so 100 divided by 5 would give us what the whole amount is. So we can see here that 100 divided by 5 would give us 20. So 30 over 100 as an equivalent fraction, with 6 as the numerator, would be 6 out of 20. This is another method for solving percent problems.